America has a problem.
That's how you're starting it.
Yeah, we're just straight in today.
Okay.
Straight to the point.
Launching in. I can get with it. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, the West has a problem, period. A lot of people would say. I'm seeing a lot of talk, and people are saying we're living in a post-Western world and we're witnessing the fall of the West. So is it true? Let's get into it.
Is it true? I mean, they have a lot of problems. That can't be argued with. Western countries got a bunch of problems right now. There's a list. There's a whole list. And that list is long. It's a long list. And to be honest, we can start with BRICS. To be honest, given the fact that we've, just started the new year. BRICS, the acronym, BRICS, was it Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, right? Organization and more countries, by the way.
Yeah, more just joined, didn't they?
Yeah, but you can't keep adding to the acronym.
No, it get a bit messy.
Yeah, every time a new country joins. Yeah.
BRICS, ADOR.
Yeah, be random sounds. BRICS is nice and catchy, but we've got to remember what we've got there. We've got a group of countries who obviously have presence, influence on a global scale, who have come together and said, you know what, we can do business, we can conduct operations without the West, right? We don't need them standing over our shoulder. We don't need them to even be involved at this point. So whether it's trade, economics, whether it's the resolution of conflict, if you look into BRICS and do a bit of research on their goals and objectives, you'll probably conclude that they're trying to take over as the new world order, if you like, or the new leading order in terms of global operations. A seat that has been held by the West, with the United States as the face of the West. And BRICS are here like, nah, we're taking that seat.
We can do it ourselves.
Yeah, that's ours now, right? And that's what they're attempting to do. And it can't be denied that they pack a punch. That can't be denied. Their growth cannot be denied. Last I checked, they accounted for 45% of the world's population. So
that's a lot.
It's a lot. The countries in the BRICS organization accounted for 45%-ish of the world's population. And mind you, that's before these new countries would have joined, because we're 2024. So it means January. It means the countries that agreed to join last year, it becomes official, right?
Yeah, which we can look at. Which countries
sure. Let's get it up.
I can have that on my tablet.
Yeah, you got everything on that little. Yeah.
First of all, let's give a little definition of BRICS, because I like my definitions.
Your definitions, your facts, yeah.
But what is BRICS? The acronym BRIC, B-R-I-C, which did not initially include South Africa, was coined in 2001 by economist Jim O'Neill in a research paper that underlined the growth potential of Brazil, Russia, India, and China. The bloc was founded as an informal club in 2009 to provide a platform for its members to challenge a world order dominated by the United States and its Western allies. Its creation was initiated by Russia. The heads of state and government of the member nations convene annually, with each nation taking up a one-year rotating chairmanship of the group. And then the countries that just joined the organization on January 1st, 2024 are Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates.
There you go. So it's not a game to them. This is serious. They're here to stay. Right? And a couple of things stand out. First of all, we knew Russia were going to be at the forefront of something like this.
Because Russia is sick and tired of it. They stay getting sanctioned by the US.
Right. So they're tired of it. So you knew they were going to be at the forefront. I mean, they've been at odds since the Cold War. Right? Yeah. They're not getting along. They haven't been getting along. We was watching Oppenheimer, innit, the other day, right? Even though that's more about the atomic bomb, Germany, Japan, and the United States. I thought they illustrated quite well the beginnings of that Cold War between the United States and Russia, right? And some of the reasons for their conflict, so to speak. But to be honest, before I knew about political happenings and international matters, I knew the Americans didn't like the Russians, because how were the Russians portrayed in every single American movie?
Just unreasonable.
Angry.
Like, assassin.
Killers. Just walking around killing people for no reason, just because they woke up wrong. So that's how they was always portrayed. You couldn't reason with them. They were just going to kill you. So Yeah, so you began to grasp, okay, Americans, they see Russians as the bad guys. And you go through all the movies and you see that. It brings me actually to Stranger Things, isn't it? As soon as something started going wrong, it's got to be the Russians.
It's the Russians.
Which kind of gives you an idea to the mentality back then in the timeline that Stranger Things is setting. So yeah, you knew Russia were going to be at the forefront. Russia, China, you knew they were going to be at the forefront of something like this. But it's interesting. What we're seeing now is we're seeing countries all around the globe start to stand up to the West, or certainly starting to lose their fear of the West, right? For example, the latest conflict, or the most publicized conflict anyway by Western media, Israel and Palestine, right? So since October 7th, even though the story goes back way before October 7th, but since October 7th, Israel have been bombing the Palestinian people, constant bombs. The last death count is high. So constant bombs. But what's interesting is that just at the beginning of this year, South Africa have lodged a claim against Israel, right, in the international courts. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah.
Accusing them of genocidal intent.
Yeah.
Right? Saying, no, you're trying to wipe those people out. You're trying to kill them all, right? Interesting. We know Israel and the West are like that.
They're tight.
They're tight, right? Day ones. Not day ones, because there's actually a story as to why they're tight. We'll have to go into that in another segment. But they've been tight for a while, right? So you know that if you're standing up to Israel, you're standing up to the West. What did we see when Israel started dropping the bombs? We saw the Western leaders, whether it's over here in the UK or over there in the United States, come out and back Israel. Back what they stated was Israel's right to defend themselves, Israel's right to self-defense. But what South Africa is saying is, nah, this isn't self-defense. This goes beyond self-defense. This is genocidal.
Yeah, genocidal acts.
There you go. You're trying to wipe them out. You're not just trying to destroy Hamas. You're trying to destroy their people. You know, and I feel like we've got to do a segment on the history of Israel and the religious connotations behind what they're doing. But that's what South Africa is saying. And for me, it was just another indication of countries saying, we're not scared of you. We're not scared of the West. We'll stand up to you. We'll call you out on your acts of atrocity, or we'll call you out on what we view to be, in this case, genocidal intent. And so I think we're seeing more and more of that around the planet. You know, another example is we spoke about the coup in Niger, right, last year. Was that when they put their president in the basement, or was that a different country?
No, yeah, I think so. It was the Niger's with the
Arab, yes.
Ethnically Arab president.
The ethnically Arab president in a 99% African country.
Yeah.
Didn't make sense. So they did their coup. They said, listen, my man, get in the basement. We run the country now, okay? We're taking back our resources. We're taking back our land, so on and so forth. When they did that, obviously they told the French, you know, bounce, get out of here. Be gone, colonizers.
Yeah.
Stop abusing our lands. We're taking control of this. And interestingly, when they did that, the first thing the United States do, as we just mentioned before, sanctions. They sanction you.
We're pulling aid.
We're pulling our aid, right? And they pulled their aid. What did Niger say? All right. Don't care. Use it to feed your homeless. We got this. This is ours.
That's facts though, because, you know, they do got a lot of homeless.
Yeah, I've been to the States. We've been to the States.
Yeah.
So the homeless people are kind of aggressive. So you've got to understand, we're not used to aggressive homeless people over here in the UK.
Yeah, the UK, they're polite.
They're polite, okay? They come up to your car and they don't even speak. It's hand signals. But over in the States, it was like, if you don't...
it's on site.
It's on site. I was like, what, is he going to fight me? So it's different. So here in Nigeria, we're like, yeah, feed your homeless, okay? And it was just another indication, because obviously the US expect, if there's some sort of conflict, they expect to come in, wave around a few magic words like it goes against democracy or something, and countries fall back in line. That's what they expect to happen. But what happened there was an indication that no, countries aren't scared anymore. People are starting to wake up to the real possibility that it might be the end of your time, right? So we're seeing countries, no, we're going to stand up for ourselves. We're going to do what we have to do, regardless of what you're talking about. So for me, it's a clear indication. And when we look at BRICS, and we look at what the moves that countries are making, let's not forget Russia invaded Ukraine, right? They had their reasons behind that. We've just seen what's happened in Yemen. Yemen?
Yeah, Yemen.
Yeah, I'm saying it in my head. I was like, yeah, Yemen. We've just seen what's happened in Yemen. Missiles have been shot down. People over there have attacked Western ships, right? There's a group over there that have attacked Western ships, if you've been following, and the Western ships have had to shoot down missiles that were targeting them also. And there's a group over there which have basically said, listen, you Western, you've sided with Israel. Israel are trying to wipe out our people, so we're declaring war against you. And they're attacking, right? What did Baba Yanun say ages ago? He said the war's coming. He said there's all these different factors, but the war is coming. And
there is so many factors to war.
Many factors. And so that was, when I saw that, I was like, oh, snap. Because you have to understand, when Israel are bombing Palestine, they're hoping, and Western countries are hoping, let the conflict just stay there. Let the people just suffer over there. They just want to keep it contained over there. But it's spreading because you've got other countries or other areas which are saying, no, okay, we're going to attack. And we're going to, whether it's vengeance or put things right or whatever it is. And so we're seeing the developments of what's happening here. So I just think when we look at BRICS and we look at some of the global happenings, we can't deny that there's a few problems, right?
There is.
There's a few problems.
Can't be denied. I mean, we're speaking on countries losing respect for the West or the US. I think this segues perfectly into speaking about currency, because if we follow what's going on in currency, we can see a bit of respect being lost even in that angle. So let's get into it. The US dollar, what's happening with that?
It's losing power. That's what's happening. Nah, I mean, it's one of those, you got to be really into finance to kind of know the intricate happenings of what's going on in the financial landscape. But there are definitely signs and signals that the dollar is beginning to lose its respect or lose its power, or certainly lose a little bit of its presence, So recently we've seen certain countries in South America start to do trade outside the dollar. I think they're using the Chinese currency. Okay, I remember you telling me about
yeah,
India.
because I think we even covered that in the 2023 recap.
There you go.
Yeah, which saw an Indian oil refiners
there you go.
Pay for Russian oil imports in Chinese yuan.
There you go.
Because of all the sanctions on Russia.
And all the sanctions on Russia. Okay, a couple of South American countries have done similar things in recent times as well. I think Bolivia or maybe one other. So what they're saying is like, listen, we can do business outside of the dollar. The dollar, mind you, which hasn't been backed by gold for
quite some time.
For a long time, right?
Yeah.
It's not backed by gold. It's a piece of paper, really.
Really? Yeah, when you get into it. It's interesting stuff. But I mean, yeah, the history of that is actually interesting.
Yeah.
Even when we talking about Oppenheimer, I know recently we've been talking about world wars a lot, so it causes us, I know me and Ray be doing a bit of research on the past world wars.
Yeah, I see you guys. I come into the room and my brain shuts down, I leave. I leave sometimes, like, they got this.
Sometimes me and Ray are just really watching videos, reading up,
But it's important.
In the zone. It's important. I think a big thing in financial history was the Bretton Woods system. Bretton Woods system. I'll always be dropping my T's. The Americans get on me about that.
Don't listen to them, okay? We all have flaws.
But that would have been towards the end of World War II.
Right. The 40s.
So 1944, around that agreement was formed by 44 countries. Representatives of 44 countries agreed on that. And it saw the US dollar being backed by gold. So there was literally a time you could exchange dollars for gold.
Right.
Which is pretty where they got the gold, though.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll get into that another time
where they get the gold.
Story. So countries felt confident. Okay, we're going to peg our currency to the US dollar, which is backed by gold.
It's backed by gold, yeah.
And it really, because the economy was pretty messy towards the end of World War II.
As it would be
and
after a war.
Needed to rebuild. So they were basically trying to establish a foreign exchange system that worked, and it did work for some time. Up until the 70s, where it was like, the US dollar's in high demand. We're printing more dollars than we have gold. So Nixon was a bit scared, like, we don't have enough gold to back the dollars in circulation. So he was like, he removed the gold standard, pretty much, it being backed by gold. It was meant to be temporary, but it wasn't. Ever since then, the dollar has not been backed by gold.
It's not backed by gold. So it's just paper.
Just a piece of paper.
You cannot exchange it. so it's interesting. But certainly, if you look into it, there are just leading off of that, there are certain journalists and experts who are looking at it like, oh, we're starting to see what they call de-dollarization.
Yes.
Are we seeing the beginnings of that? Some people say, no, absolutely not. We're still doing trade, but you can't deny that certain things are beginning to happen. India trading in Chinese currency when they're dealing with the Russians because of the sanctions. Countries in South America doing what they're doing, saying, yeah, we don't need to use the dollar. And obviously, if the dollar does start to get used less, that has a direct effect on their economy and a direct effect on the US's power. It just has to. And so for me, it's something to watch as well.
It's signs, definitely signs.
You know, we saw BRICS last year talking about, oh, we're going to create our own currency.
Yeah, I remember reading about that.
There you go. So if they were able to do that, obviously that's really beginning stages as far as talk, because you've got different countries with different economies or different states of their economies. So if you try to create a central currency based on the group, it has its challenges. But they're speaking about it. They're saying, yeah, we can create our own currency, which effectively can eventually become like the World Bank type situation. So the main thing for me is that countries are beginning to wake up to the possibility of, hey, we do not need to do business with the West, and we don't need them standing over our shoulders when we're doing business with each other. We can just do our work and without them. And to me, it's significant. Honestly, I'll take it somewhere else. When we're dealing with Western countries, I'll take it somewhere else as well. When you look at Western countries, people are dying faster than they're being born.
Well, yeah, take it. Speak on it, Amakhu.
They're dying. I don't think you can run the world if you don't exist.
Well, it'd be pretty hard.
It would be difficult, right? They're dying, right? When you look at birth rates, when you look at fertility rates, right? You can go and do your research. This is something that they know. They cite and they've done their various research papers on it. Not enough people are being born in these Western countries. So when you deal with a fertility rate of a country, you need it to be 2.1-ish, is what they're saying. In order to maintain the population, every woman in that country needs to have on average 2.1 births, right? Mm-hmm. That's the number to maintain the population, right? Mm-hmm. If you go right now and you look at the fertility rate by country, at the top 10, top 20, top 30, what countries are you going to see? Niger will be right up there. Niger might be first, actually. I have to look at it again. Niger will be right up there. Congo, Mali, Ghana, Sierra Leone, African country. You know what I'm saying, right? Once I start listing those countries,
I hear
you know what I'm saying.
Despite everything going on
there you go.
In those countries.
There you go. The fertility rate is high, right? So top 10, top 20, top 30, those are the type of countries you see. As you start to slide down a little bit, mid-range of the table, you might see countries like Egypt or Jordan, maybe Morocco. To check again, you know, countries that even if they are African countries, but they've been taken over temporarily by other than the African seed. Okay, they're in the middle. They're in the middle. Go down further now, below 2. Remember, you need 2.1. Below 2, that's when you start to see your Western countries. That's when you start to see United States. That's where you start to see the UK. That's where you start to see Sweden, Norway, Denmark, these type of countries, Western allied countries. Below 2.1, the last time I checked the UK, it was at 1.6.
And 2.1 is what you need just to maintain.
To maintain the population, you need 2.1. The UK is, the last I checked, 2023, is at 1.6. So some would argue that's not a problem. That's a population collapse. And they are in panic about it. They're just not loud about it.
Not publicizing.
But they are looking at it like, yo, man, what we going to do? As Baba Yanon has taught, there's nothing that you can do. What's going to happen is going to happen. But these are realities. I think if you look at the African countries, obviously they'll cite their different reasons for it. Why the births are so low over here, why the births are so high in a different place in the world. They'll cite their different reasons for it. But the bottom line is, if you cease to exist, if you fade out of existence, then as does your rule, right? Naturally speaking. So African countries will be around, the highest, Niger is probably close to 7, maybe 6 point. The high 6 points, maybe 6.7, 6.8, something like that. And then you gradually, a little bit lower, you're ranging somewhere between 3 and 7 for most of the African countries. You know, so I think Ghana and Sierra Leone are probably 3.7-ish, those type of ranges. You can check this. So it's not exact numbers, but you can check the list. It's easily searchable. Mm-hmm. Okay? And so it's very clear that Again, you cite your reasons, but despite what they've all been through, what we've all been through as a people, our population growth is thriving. Okay, they anticipate the amount of Africans on the planet is going to treble in the next few decades, shall we say?
Yeah, there was a article on that, and I think in the New York Times, even, so people can search that out.
Yeah, so that's what they're saying. So they know what's happening. They know what's happening. These Western countries, remember, I'm using the term Western countries. The facts of the matter, these countries are majority white, and the majority black countries are obviously thriving in terms of growth, and not so much over here. It's interesting because Baba Yanun broke down a while ago, and again, people may not like it, but facts are facts. Science is science. He broke it down from a racial perspective a while ago, that certain races are going to continue to exist and certain races will not. Certain races have their time, as species do. This is what we're seeing in this new time. As we go into a new age, species will begin to fade out of existence. You even start to see species that you haven't seen for a long time, which we see with certain birds popping up. Right? He explained this is what happens with the races as well. We come from different origins. All right, African people are different to Europeans, have different origins to Europeans. Mongoloid people have different origins to Europeans. Dravidian people have different origins to Europeans. Okay, so whereas all life undoubtedly comes from Africa, there are crucial interceptions in there, which means our stories are very different, right? And so certain races survive throughout, no matter their conditions, Africans, and certain races have their time period for existence, Europeans. These are just facts. And that's what we're seeing right now. And that 1.6 I mentioned over in the UK, we have to remember it could be being propped up slightly because you do have immigration in these countries where you have other ethnicities coming in and having children, which could push up the score a little bit. So, yeah, it can't be denied. That's a serious issue. If not enough babies are being born, how long do you think the population will last? Right? And these are the questions that they know. And they've answered. They said, all right, listen, to maintain this population, we need 2.1. That's what all countries need. This country and many other Western countries are not achieving that, not even close. So it's and it's a problem they've had for a while. I remember speaking on this like 7 years ago in class, 8 years ago.
I do remember because you showed the full news story of it, and they was like, yeah,
this is a problem.
Yeah, they showed the whole map.
Yeah,
and highlighted where
the
slow.
Yeah, where it's low, where it's high.
I know where that is. That's far away from the Africa.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Africa was bright red, whatever color represented thriving birth rates. That's what color Africa was. And then it was just getting dimmer and dimmer the closer you got to Europe. So these are facts. These are just facts. This is just what happens. This is a part of nature. So it's nothing really to contend with. It just is what it is. And that's just birth rates, right? We're just speaking about birth rates. We're not speaking about diseases. We're not speaking about wars, right? We spoke about what's happening with Israel, Gaza. We spoke about what's happening with Russia, Ukraine. I know China are eyeing Taiwan, like, we might need to take that. All of these developments are leading towards that ultimate war. Remember what Baba Yanun predicted? He said, the bear and the dragon will turn on the eagle, strike them down, right? The bear, Russia, the dragon, China, will turn on the eagle, the United States. We're seeing evidence of that already, okay? Remember, Russia had to, from their perspective, had to do what they're doing to Ukraine because they're like, where Ukraine's positioned. If you guys are going to join NATO, that's a strategic advantage we can't give the NATO countries, okay? We need to take you, okay, in preparation for what's to come, okay? So when we talk about birth rates, when we talk about diseases, when we talk about wars, when we talk about mass shootings, when we talk about suicide rates, the Western countries have a variety of problems that, to be honest, given the time that we're in, are unsolvable. There's nothing much they can do. All they can do is try to maintain the illusion of power for as long as possible. Remember, their time ended in 2003. The time is over. What we're seeing now is a transition of power, okay? But whilst they begin to fade, they will try to maintain the illusion. No, we're still in charge.
We got this.
We got this. Yeah. Get back in line this year. Oh, you're not going to do that? All right. You'll see. So they'll try and maintain the illusion of control, but the facts are the facts. And so I advise people to just do your research. Just look into it. When you talk about the fall of the West, I'm going to point heavily towards the birth rates because I'm going to say, well, Western countries can't possibly continue to run this world if they're not here, right? And that's what's happening. They're fading.
Yeah.
They're fading.
Also, why we're seeing a lot with the interracial agenda.
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah, there you
you
go.
were speaking on that in Let's Get Racial.
Yeah,
but
there you go.
It brought that to mind.
Yeah, it's an important science. Remember, they knew already from their conception that they had to mix with other than themselves because of the strength of their genes, okay? But with that one, it's an interesting one, right? Because they'll look at it and say, that's a lot what slavery was about, by the way. But they'll look at it and say, yeah, we need to mix to keep our genes at a certain strength. But also, if we mix too much, the African gene will eventually overpower the European gene. So whichever way you look at it, whatever's supposed to happen in nature will happen. Whatever's supposed to happen in nature will happen. How it happens, maybe you delay it for a decade, maybe you don't. It will happen, and that's what's happening. And so, yeah, the interracial mixing can't be ignored, and it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Dr. Uma's doing his best to stop it. I understand. I commend you. But the reality of it is that it's gonna happen, and it's taking place. You know. So as an individual, I always look at it and say, "Yeah, I can't wait till I find my African partner." That's how it's gonna be. Okay, but others are not gonna do that. They're gonna do what they're gonna do. But that's also a method by which certain seeds will cease to exist, also will eventually fade out of existence. And they know this. Trust me, they know this. This is a science they're fully aware of. They're not in the dark about it at all. So, yeah, as far as the planet, don't forget the planet's getting hotter as well, which means that certain beings aren't going to be able to survive. All right, they speak a lot about global warming and climate change and so on and so forth. We've entered a sun cycle. The planet is going to get hotter anyway, okay? And they are fully aware that without melanin, it's going to be difficult to survive. Remember, I saw that Caucasian woman or that white woman speaking online probably a while ago now, a year or two ago. I don't know what they asked her, whether they said, why are you going after the black men? What do you like about them? And she was like, listen, man, my children need to survive. So I'm going to need them to have a little bit of that melanin. It's survival. All right. And so they're aware of this. We know that as human beings, we're aware of survival. We know that women are very aware of survival and take it into account, whether consciously or subconsciously, when choosing their partners. So it's only natural that certain things are going to take place based on where the planet's going. And this is just nature. This is just science. This is just facts. And obviously, as student teachers, it's our jobs to speak on those facts, right? Despite the uncomfortability sometimes around them or around the topics, if that makes sense. So, yeah, it's happening.
It's happening. It's on and popping. So what does our teacher, Wu-Ṱabaธ์, say about all this? What do we need to do to prepare, for lack of a better term? Go.
Yeah, I mean, he to be honest, he's been teaching on what's happening right now in different forms for quite a while. Okay, you could go back quite some years to read about him when he's or to read the words that he's written in terms of when he's teaching us about the end times and what's going to happen, the so-called end of the world. You know, in the hereafter doctrine, I would point towards a few scrolls. I would point towards actual fact 14, I think it is, the Precession Change. Right, the Precession Change was an important book. It's called the Precession Change 2012. And it's an important book because it spoke about the changing of the guard, essentially, or what the planet's going through. If you remember, 2009, 2010, 2011, people were worried. I don't know if you remember. But back at that time, people thought the world was going to end in 2012.
Yeah, I remember.
There's a movie, right?
Yeah.
There's a movie. I just remembered.
That movie didn't help.
Didn't help. That didn't help with the worries. You're like, what? What does it mean, though? Because you're making movies, sure, good movie, but are you saying that this is happening? So, people were frightened. They were scared at that time of what was to come. And what Baba Yanun explained, and they were frightened for various reasons, whether you're talking about the Mayans calendar or certain cultures which believed that 2012 was going to be the end point. The Mayans, incidentally, their culture would have learned certain things about the stars from the ancient Africans. And so the message sometimes gets blurred. It's Chinese whispers, isn't it? As we go through the years.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it starts to lose its originality, you know, the potency of the original message in terms of, so by the time we got to 2009, people were like, that's it. It's going to be a meteorite or a tidal wave or a don't look up situation or something's going to happen. It's done. Okay, so unless someone's building an ark out there, we're finished. But what Baba Yanun explained in 2012 in the precession change was that, no, this is a shifting of ages. We are shifting from one age into the next. So in a sense, it's the end of the world. But a more accurate description is the end of a world and the beginning of another. Okay, so there's a few sciences. I recommend people read the book because we won't go into all of the sciences. But remember, you're talking about equinoxes and of that, like, and cycles within cycles within cycles. One of the important things that he mentioned happening around that time period, around that 2009, between 2009 and 2012, was that the solar plexus, if you like, of the planet. So remember, when we're dealing with the planet, it's an organism very similar to us in a sense, as Negroids, as Africans, and it has a central point, the same way we have a solar plexus. The planet has a central sun. Okay, I'm hoping that people have done their reading in terms of the central sun and the cities beneath the surface of the planet, and it's not just life on the surface. Look into Admiral Byrd, look into certain bodies of water being found in certain places like Antarctica that are warmer than they should be based on where they are in the planet, so on and so forth. There's various accounts of people finding these caves and these caverns beneath the surface, cities being built, so on and so forth. Reptu even spoke the other day about Hitler being in contact with certain extraterrestrials beneath the surface. So I'm hoping people can do their reading on that. But what we've got at the center of the planet is we've got a central sun, right? What Baba Yanun explains is that, so this is more spiritual science. What Baba Yanun explained is that this central sun emits an energy, almost in like a double helix-like fashion, to outwards, okay? And this energy point is always matching up with a particular location on the planet, right? So it's coming out from the central sun and it's hitting a point on the surface of the planet, all right? So we said what happens every 12 to 13,000 years is there's a shift, the poles shift, and the direction of this energy shifts directions, right? So previous age, it was Middle East. That's where the energy was going. And now it's shifted towards Africa. And he explained that this is a inevitable change in nature, and it's all about frequencies and vibrations and energy, so on and so forth. And again, maybe even today, we'll do a breakdown on frequencies and vibrations and the nature of the planet, the way that we as beings emit energy, so does the planet, so does the stars, so on and so forth. Because I feel when you're dealing with frequencies and vibrate, sometimes it gets a little bit distant from science in the way that it's received. Like, oh, that's just, what are you talking about? The stars, the this, you know? But there's an actual science to all of these things. And these are facts, okay? Every entity release a frequency. The earth is no different, okay? So he explained that, okay, when it shifted, when that point that it was touching the surface shifted to Africa, a few things happened. He said, first of all, Negroids, as you would say, in the surrounding areas, in the African continent, will begin to wake up. Their consciousness will begin to rise. And they will begin to, hang on a sec. You know, we might be gods. You know, eventually we're gonna get towards there. He said not only that, but all Africans worldwide, no matter where you are on the planet, your consciousness levels will begin to rise. You'll begin to become more aware of your surroundings, okay? Many of us. Unfortunately, not all of us. But many of us will connect with the frequency that's now being broadcast worldwide and start to gain more of a reality in who we are. Stop being so subject to the brutalities of those that came after us, or to the bondage of those that came after us, and start to understand who we are as people. Okay, so I said we'll start. I'm seeing it, to be honest. I'm hearing things from some of our people that I wasn't hearing 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
People starting to hang on a sec. Yeah, we have to do for self. We got to do what we're doing. We got to support our own. I'm starting to see it from people I personally never thought I'd see it from. People who were way gone.
Yeah, people of the world.
Yeah, completely of a particular world. So we're seeing a situation where people are starting to say, yeah, you know what? We matter. As a people, we matter, you know? Less of because I felt there was a time where we were becoming more colorblind in our mentality, which is something that religion done to us, where it's like, it doesn't matter what you are on the outside. We're all the same on the inside. And I always say a colorblind mentality is all good once you've put African people to the bottom. Put them to the bottom, then say, okay, but don't see color now. Okay, it's all good. We'll just stay down here because it doesn't really matter because there's no color anyway. All right, but you've put us to the bottom already. So starting to understand that, no, we have to do for self. No, we have to build for our children. and take our place in this world. So we're starting to see that. Another thing that he mentioned that will happen as a result of this shift is that African women will start to take up their natural place. So if in this previous age, in this previous 6,000 years, if you like, women have been put back. And he said that's not a natural position in nature. The woman came before the man. Her natural position in nature is right there at the forefront. And so he explained that, yeah, African women are going to start to remember who they are. And it will be their time to lead in certain ways. So he's saying a number of things were going to happen as a result of that particular shift of energy and the difference in frequency that is now being broadcasted. So certain things can only happen in certain times, right? What happened to us in this previous age could only have happened in that period of time because of the nature of the frequencies that were being broadcasted, the nature of the time that it was. Now that we shift out of that, and our resurrection, so to speak, had to be for this time also, because now the frequencies have changed. The planet has gone through natural changes. So is the solar system, the galaxy, and the universe. These are just natural changes, okay? We know we come to life in the summer, right? And we're like, in the winter.
Yeah, I'm feeling it right now.
It's too cold.
It's hard to get. It's not even cold, it's freezing.
The cold is attacking us.
It's freezing.
You step out your house and you're getting attacked, right? So, but naturally, that is a sort of micro, vision of what takes place to us as a people over a longer period of time. Every single year we come to life in the summer and we're like, in the winter. That's exactly what happens to us as a people. The previous 6,000 years has been a moon cycle. We've just entered the sun cycle. So as a people, we're going to start to see us come back to life, or see ourselves come back to life. This is a natural occurrence, okay? And remember, as Africans, we are the most connected to the planet because we have been here the longest. So we stay here throughout its various changes and go through different states of conditions, admittedly, some that I would rather avoid, but we're ever present and will continue to be present. So read The Precession Change. I'd advise people. Another book to read in conjunction with that is actually, because that's Actual Fact 14. You have Actual Fact 13, Nuwapian Ontologists of Time, which goes into certain things. And people of our culture have long been familiar with the SMAT circle. Read that book for various breakdowns on the SMAT circle. But hopefully we can bring it up on screen to illustrate what I'm saying. But essentially, the SMAT circle really illustrates how time passes through different ages. So you'd have a 9 at the top of the circle, 2 6s either side, and a 3 at the bottom. Okay? Triad. Space, matter, and time is what SMAT stands for. The triad of that particular cycle would be 9 ether, 6 ether, and 3 ether, also known as ghost ether, right? So 9 at the top, 2 6s either side, 3 at the bottom, right? This last 6,000 year period, we've been right in the apex of 3. That's why it's been so bad.
It's been really bad.
It's been right there, okay? So if 9 ether is life, and 6 ether is death, or the beginnings of evolution, then 3 is like the death of death. It's like the ghost. It's like the worst. It's the worst time. So that's what we've been literally as a universe, if you like. That's what we've been in this last 6,000 year period. Each period is a different length of time. So the 9 etherical age, if you start at that 9 and you go counterclockwise down to that 6, that period of time from that 9 to that 6 is a long time. Okay. The period from the 6 to the 3 is a different set of time, and the 3 period is 6,000 years. And that's the 6,000 years we've been in this last 6,000 years. That's why it's been so terrible. But what did Baba Yanun say? He said that 6,000 years ended in 2000 or 2003. If you've watched the Philadelphia experiment episode, there was some time shifts and time lapses and so on and so forth. That's why sometimes we say 2000 or sometimes we say 2003, because the Philadelphia experiment caused the jump, if you like, or caused the shift. But 2000, he said their 6,000 years ended. It's over. It's over. We've entered a new sun cycle now, right? So we're going back up towards the 6 and eventually towards the 9. And he said, what does that mean? Well, he said, in this period, certain beings had to manifest because we're in the death of death. We're in the worst time period, which is why we've seen such atrocities in this time period. We've seen beings manifest that just have no soul at all and are capable of atrocities that are huge, right? That's all we've seen in my life. If you literally research your life, we've lived in certain places where we've been blessed enough to maybe not have been directly impacted. But if you research your life, you'll see conflicts have been happening since you were born, and they're happening right now. Do research on the current conflicts on the planet. You find plenty. That's been the definition of this age. And we're coming out of it, which is a transition period, which means it's getting better, but it's getting worse, so to speak, because it must really come to its,
peak.
Its peak or its implosion, so to speak. And that's what we're seeing, which is really what the end of the world is, that terminology. The world is cyclical. Existence is based on cycles, right? So it's always something starts, everything that has a beginning has an end, right? We are without beginning and without ending, so we're ever present. But everything that has a beginning has an end, just like the Oracle said in Matrix? Matrix, the third Matrix, right? And so at the beginning of the 6,000 years, this is why we point to religion, because this is where religion has its, the stories have its benefit, because you can understand that, 6,000 years ago, which again, if you trace back the age of each character in the Bible, from Jesus all the way back to Adam, you're going to come to the understanding that from this point in time, Adam existed around 6,000 years ago, right? So it means a particular group of beings were created at this time, right? Around 6,000 years ago, these beings were created, okay? That's not the creation. That's a creation, all right? They were created and they've unleashed hell upon the planet. That's the reality of it. No one has been spared at the hand, the suffering at the hands of the Adamites. No one has been spared it.
No one.
No one has been spared it. We've suffered the most as Africans, being their opposites, but no one's been spared it, right? So that 6,000 years is up. We're heading into a new age of existence, right? So read Nuwapian Ontologies of Time, read the precession change. I'll take it one more place as well, just based on our culture as well, because there's so many different places you can take it. The dimensional shift.
Yeah.
The dimensional shift has happened, right?
It's happened.
So you have all these different sciences that Baba Yanun has been teaching us about for many years that are all happening almost at the same time, whether it's the precession change, whether it's the end of a 6,000 year moon cycle and the start of a 6,000 year sun cycle, which means that we become more potent as sun beings, Africans, or whether it's the dimensional shift. So what did Baba Yanun explain about the dimensional shift? This is good actually, because Retu just broke down the 7 planes, right? And it's always good to distinguish between the planes and the dimensions. So the 7 planes are as broken down in that episode.
Check it out.
Check it out. Assuming it's out when we drop this, but yeah. Check it out. If it's not, it'll be out. It'll be out. So check it out. 7 planes.
I had to think on the schedule, but it'll be out.
We got a lot going on. There's a lot of workings going on in the brain. But check it out. That's for the planes. The dimensions is a different thing. Okay, so whether you have 7 planes or 9 planes, you have 8 harmonic frequencies. Dimensions are more related to harmonics. Baba Yanun relates it more to the music, right? So 8 harmonic tones and frequencies. But essentially what the dimensional shift is, remember, every atom now on this side of existence and the other side of existence has a pulsation rate, okay? Not to be confused with nutation, but every atom has a pulsation rate. And when this pulsation rate increases, these atoms shift from one dimension to the next, okay? So what's happening to the Earth's atoms is that the Earth's atoms the pulsation rate is increasing. The Earth, the planet, is shifting from one dimension to the next. That's happening. It's happened. Okay, so what then happens is that all the beings upon the earth, whether on this side of existence or the other, have to shift with it. If you don't shift with it, you cease to exist, or you begin to fade out of existence. Baba Yanun broke it down. He said in the previous age, you had 3 root races when you're dealing with human beings. Now, 3 root races: Africans, Mongoloids, and Caucasians, right? Those were the 3 root races, and every race really through that time period could be seen somewhere in between those races, if that makes sense. He said, as we shift into the new dimension, the 3 root races will change. It will be Africans, Dravidians, and Mongoloids, okay? Just facts, okay? So what happens is that any beings who can't make the shift up to the higher pulsation rate or the higher frequency of existence will begin to fade out of existence, if that makes sense, or fade off the planet. And that's both human beings and animals. This is a natural occurrence, okay? This is what happens. So Baba Yanun said, look around because the dimensional shift has happened. Right? He said, look around, who's progressing and who's regressing. People think it's a snap. People think it's Thanos.
Yeah. Existence doesn't work like that.
Doesn't work like that. Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good. It's not like that.
It's not instantaneous.
It's not instantaneous like that.
Because people always used to say in class, well, can we get a timeline for this all? When's it going to be official?
And they was always like, look around, it's happening. You just have to be able to recognize the signs and see beyond the distortion and the fog that they put before your eyes. But it's happening. And so it's that transition period. Look around. Who is progressing? Who is regressing? I speak about the free root races, but don't make the mistake of thinking that it's purely racial. It's purely racial. This is a vibrational science, okay? Mm-hmm. You have a general facts that apply to the Africans, general facts that apply to the Caucasians, general facts that apply to the Mongoloids, so on and so forth. But everyone vibrates on their own frequency. And the actual fact of this time is that you have many people who are vibrating differently to their original vibration, or to the original vibration that matches who they are. So plenty of Africans are not vibrating anything close to Africans, and so on and so forth. So it's a vibrational science. So it said, look around, because many of all in all places are going to suffer and fade. This is a cold reality, so to speak, of an end time period. So I speak racially for that reason, because that's how it's broken down, but it's a vibrational science. There are people who are progressing and there are people who are regressing. And if you look around, you'll be able to see. And that should give you an indication as to who has made the dimensional shift and who hasn't. So in answer to your question, ultimately, in terms of what has Baba Yanun taught about, he's taught about those spiritual sciences that I feel are important to mention, because we speak about things on different levels, right? We speak about the practical happenings, BRICS, finances, dollar, wars, so on and so forth. But a lot of what we're seeing happen before our eyes is a result of shifts in energy and spiritual sciences. These are realities. And once we learn them, we begin to understand them. Then we look around and we say, okay, is what's happening matching what we've learned here? And the reality is, yes, it is. Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. And so for us, it's about staying, in terms of what we do, a lot of it is about staying out of their way at this time. Because all of this has been predicted. I remember one of the early Partalaks, Baba Yanun explained, the Caucasians and the Arabs they're gonna fight. They're gonna fight. There's gonna be big wars that break out between them. We're starting to see that. He said, age to go, the bear and the dragon will turn on the eagle. We're starting to see the happenings of that. Certain beings will begin to fade. We'll start to wake up. We're starting to see the happenings of that. Trust me, I'm one that has looked at it plenty of times like, wow, can this just happen like that? Because we think like that because our life right now is quite short in reference to how long the planet's been. Our actual individual physical life is a short amount of time in reference to the planet. So the planet going through its changes is just normal. The same way that a year is to us, we go through all the different experiences of the planet in 1 year. The planet goes through its changes in reference to its own organism and the size of its organism and so on and so forth, if that makes sense. But if you look around, to me, it's clear what's happening. So it's to stay out of their way. It's to gravitate more towards our original vibration. Your original vibration is represented in your culture, how you behave, the language you speak, the food you eat, the tones you use, the names you use. Your whole identity has to shift away from what has been forced upon us in this last age and more towards our original culture. Remember, the further back you get, because I hear a lot of this talk online as well, and not even to go into religion because I don't want to today, but I hear a lot of talk online about, well, yeah, all these religions, these modern day religions, they're our stories anyway. Yeah, they're taken from our stories. Some of them mishmashed, some of them changed. There's definitely application. We can definitely point to some characters either being African or having studied in Africa. Yes, all those stories are valid. And that's why Baba walked us through those schools, to make us aware of the flaws, to make us aware of the reality of those schools, but then also to graduate out of them. Because you have to understand, the closer you get back to your original creation story or your original culture or your original point of existence, is surely the closer you get to what you might term as God.
Exactly.
Or your creator.
Exactly that.
Or your ancestors, or your angels, or your watchers, or your overseers, or the higher power, whatever terminology. Don't get caught on the terminology. The further you go back, surely to your creation, is surely the closer you get to God, because God created you, right? So it makes no sense to use stories that have arrived long after your original point. It makes perfect sense to trace it all the way back to your original culture.
Facts. Why would I want the diluted thing when I could have the real deal?
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So yeah, so in answer to your question in terms of what we do, that's what we do. But in terms of the teachings on it, that's where I would look to. If I was someone who's just come into it and said, I want to read about this particular thing, whether it's the changing of the guard, the end of the world or the end of a world, the shifting of energies, the new age, the precession change, the Warpian ontologies of time, and the dimensional shift. There's other books as well, but those are the 3 books that I would point to as well. I would also point to, I know it's a lot coming out, but I Was There, Which Was Here as well. But maybe we can do a different segment on that book as to why I point towards that book. But those are the 3 books I would look at as far as the cycles and our teachings.
Yeah, it's very deep stuff. It's very deep stuff, and it's important to know the spiritual aspects of it because it answers a lot of questions as to why this is happening. Because you could just feel very lost in this day and time. Like, why do these things have to happen?
Yeah. And you know, religion doesn't have an answer for that. It just sort of provides you with comfort, you know, lies that comfort you. It's all good because Jesus, he's coming back in any moment now. He'll arrive and it will be good again. It's all good. We're going to heaven. It's all good. But, you know, the spiritual sciences give you more of a foundation in terms of understanding the duality of existence and overstanding that if you have good, you must also have bad. And if you experience good in your individual life and bad in your individual life, us as a people will go through ages where we experience good and ages where we experience bad. And this is a part of nature. And the age of existence that we're in right now answers a lot of questions as to why we've gone through such suffering. Because I always ask that question. I'd be like, all right, well, if this God really cares about us, what's happening? Because it's been a moment now that we've been going through it. It's not time to stop it. It's not time to end it. So, yeah, you know, but then you learn what's really going on. You learn what's really happening. And I just think it's valid. I think it helps. And there's so much to go into. So we just covered a little bit today, but there's so much to go into.
Yeah.
But it's valid.
Yeah. I think we've covered a lot today. Covered a lot. Yep. So that's that.
Yeah, it's a lot.
The West.
It's falling.
It's falling.
It's changing. It's our time. That's where I'd end it. If you want to end on positivity, it is our time. But we still have to take it. Nothing, again, not to harp on about religion, but religion teaches a lot of people that it's okay. Or maybe a better way to say it is that a lot of people take from religion that it's okay to just sit around because the Savior's coming. It's our time, but we have to take it. We still have to do the work. We still have to put in the work. We still have to elevate our mentality. We still have to elevate our knowledge. We still have to care about ourselves. We still have to learn to love ourselves. Remember, we've been taught to not love ourselves. And you see it all around the world. We don't love ourselves. We have to learn to do that again. We have to learn to care, to quote one of Baba's famous classes. So,
learn to care.
So yeah, it is our time, but we still got to take it. It's not going to be handed to us. So.
Facts. So yeah, Wu-Täbaʄ for that means thank you in our language. I want to thank everyone for listening. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you like what you hear, subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell to stay up to date with what we got going on. You can catch us on social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and all the podcast platforms if you're more of an audio listener.
We're omnipresent.
Like God.
Yeah.
Us and God are chilling everywhere. No joke. But yeah, we'll be back very, very soon. Very soon. But until then, farewell. Wadu.
Farewell and wadu.